I get this question asked a lot.
Yeah.
And here it is. It's, do we all have birth trauma?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've never met anybody who didn't.
Right. One thing that we discussed in the past was being reminded that there's a lot of pressure that becomes absolutely necessary for part of that transition to occur.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, well, depending on the circumstances, for some it's a lot more than others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying all of birth is traumatic
Mm-hmm.
every time for everybody. That's just not true. And there are levels of trauma, of course. I mean, there's severe trauma where you need to take immediate action to save a life or disfigurement or something like that.
Right.
But I think when someone is injured and they've had a lack of oxygen, or their bones have been displaced on their face, or their muscles are contracted and in spasm, that hurts too. And so I include that in my definition of trauma.
Right.
It's like if you get hit, if I got hit in the head once by Mike Tyson, that would be traumatic for me, you know, and I might see stars.
Yeah.
Well, birth is like that. Our human beings have to rotate our heads to get through the narrowest part of birth. We're the only mammals who have to do that, the only ones. You see a horse get born and they're walking around, and an hour later, you know, looking at the world and alert. They don't have head trauma. They're also born full term. Human beings, because our heads are so big, have to basically, we get born while we're still prenatal, you know.
Huh.
We got to get out of there while we still can.
Right.
Because our big brains hold big craniums, which are passing through narrow pelvises. And we have narrow pelvises because we walk with bipedal steps rather than on all fours.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you ever seen a chimp? You know, they walk,
Yeah.
they swing those big,
Sway.
those are birth-friendly hips, let me tell you, you know. Chimps born and they're like, grab onto their mom and go, let's go, you know.
Uh-huh.
And we're basically prenatal for another year at least. So that's why it's so good to wear babies. But getting back to the main thing, I have been so frustrated just trying to get people to take a peek at what happens to our babies, and it's hard to get them to do that. So I tried to slip it into my book in a way that wasn't too pushy, and in a way that wasn't too graphic.